But now to our first and very exciting keynote speaker. The serial entrepreneur, writer and leading business thinker, Sahar Hashemi OBE. She'll be well known to many of us. As I said, she is a serial entrepreneur and founder of Coffee Republic, Skinny Candy, founder of By Women Built, and board director of Scale Up Institute. She's also, as if that wasn't enough, a best-selling author of 3 books, including, of course, Anyone Can Do It. And as you're about to hear, there is so much more to her than even that. Now, after her keynote, Sahar will be joined by the equally impressive Professor Mark Logan, OBE, former COO of Skyscanner, a government advisor on all things tech and entrepreneurial, co-writer with Anna of the Pathways Report on women in entrepreneurship, and of course, a very good friend of us here today. But first, let's welcome Sahar Hashemi to the stage to argue why entrepreneurship is becoming the new women's movement.
Thank you, Ness. Thank you, Anna and Emmy. I was chatting to Anna about my speech this morning, and Anna was asking me what should be the title of my speech. And what I was thinking, what should be the title, I thought actually this Female Founders Growth Summit, it's not really just an event, is it? It's actually what we're talking about here is a movement. It is a movement. I called it a women's movement because women's movement started in, 19th century, around equality, giving us a right to vote. But then that long lineage of women that have come before us, those women, those brave women who have laid the groundwork for us, the glass ceilings that they have smashed, all these women. We follow, we stand on their shoulders. And the real difference is the world of business, where they entered and where they've paved the way for us, was I think the world of business was very different back then. It was fundamentally, let's admit it, it was made by men, for men. The command and control structure, the thinking around business, command and control came from the military, linear, methodical, say it from the Industrial Revolution, it was about strength, about that sort of power. And in a way, the qualities that you needed back then, the brain that suited the world of business back then, was actually fundamentally a very male brain. And not much EQ was needed in a way. It was just, you're almost meant to leave your EQ, your emotional nature at the door and go to work. And that was what the generation of our fathers and grandfathers, that was that generation. But actually, what we need to recognize is that we have entered a completely new age. It's almost totally the opposite. So I think the pace and the depth of change that we've got now is requiring a completely new brain, a completely new way of working, where stuff like agility, being emotional, being yourself, being heart-centered really matters. And so this is really where the skills you need to really succeed in this world we currently live in, the brain you need, is actually a very female brain. And when I talk around female brain, male brain, I know very aware that, it's just kind of, some women have a 100% female brain, but it's not really that defined, but let's generalize it biologically or culturally, that is actually the female brain. And those are the skills that we have that hold the real power. And I became a convert really into this, into believing in this, through my own journey. I started my life not at all as an entrepreneur. I started my life as a solicitor. Because I used to think entrepreneurship was like a special chromosome that some people had and some people didn't. I kind of thought it was like some sort of a magic dust that creative people had. So I went and, I didn't show any traits of entrepreneurship. My teachers won't remember me for any creativity. I didn't drop out of school. People used to think, entrepreneurs have to drop out of school and be real leaders. And I wasn't like that. I wasn't fearless. I wasn't a risk taker. I would look at Richard Branson. That was my image of really what an entrepreneur was back when I was growing up, and there was no way I was like him. But in my 20s, I suppose kind of the ground underneath me slightly shook. I was sort of shaken out of my comfort zone. My dad died when I was very young. He was very young. And almost like it made me question, like, is there really a comfort zone? What am I holding on to? What is this fear kind of that I'm holding on to? And I kind of took a leap into entrepreneurship, and I took a leap. I left my career as a lawyer, and I only left it because I'd been to New York and I had had my first ever skinny latte, and I fell in love with having skinny lattes. And just because as a customer I wanted it, I wanted to come back to the UK and drink skinny lattes and put flavoring in it and have it iced in the summer, I basically embarked on the journey of entrepreneurship, more like I leapt into it. And my motto actually is leap and the net will appear. And I believe in this so strongly because when I took the leap, my self-belief was about 1%. I had about 1% self-belief. I had no idea. I didn't know any entrepreneurs. I didn't know any single person who'd ever started a business. We were clueless about the business we were going into. We were clueless about coffee. We had no idea. But, in this journey, I learned what it is like to be an entrepreneur. And what I learned is really the title of the book I wrote, Anyone Can Do It, because I believe we all have an entrepreneur within us. It's just a question of activating it. And you all who've taken the leap know that you almost become an entrepreneur. You don't start off as an entrepreneur. The journey of taking that idea into your head and making it happen turns you into an entrepreneur. And I have always believed in this, but I see this, I have the honor of seeing this firsthand through the movement I have started called Buy Women Built, that I think a few members are in the audience. Buy Women Built is a consumer movement I started during the pandemic. We have 2,000 women-built consumer brands. We're only about consumer brands. And really, through bringing them together and telling people, look how many brands are started by women, we've created this community of founders of consumer brands. And I have the honor of having front row seats and seeing these 2,000 women and seeing what true power really is. And what a gift we've got in this day and age, that we can be ourselves, that we don't have to contort ourselves to fit into another mold, to be 100% ourselves, using all those qualities. And I see this every day with the founders of Buy Women Built, of using all those feminine qualities to really make stuff happen and shake the earth. Because what I believe the real difference is qualities that used to make us the butt of jokes, kind of qualities that we'd always have to hide as women. They're almost at competitive advantage now. Let me take you through the qualities. Our softness. People used to be like, oh God, that's really flaky, because before, women had to be tough, and strength was a different way of being tough, and we had to hide our softness. But softness is all about empathy. And I work a lot with large companies, and every large company is thinking, how can we put ourselves in customers' shoes? How can we think what they want? Well, in women, we have this in spades because empathy just comes naturally to us because we're heart-centered and we're always putting ourselves in other people's shoes. We can so see the other perspective. So that softness, that customer empathy is really the holy grail of customer satisfaction. It's what every big company is looking for. We've got that in spades. Our chattiness, right? People used to make fun of us. Oh, women chat. Well, guess what? If any of you remember the Mars and Venus book, the idea is that when you're in trouble, men go to a cave and hide, whereas women call up another girlfriend and get together and have a chat. Well, that's all about networking, isn't it? It's all about sharing. It's all about learning from each other. When people say women don't have networks, it's what we're amazing at is networking, isn't it? Third one, our emotional nature. Oh my God, you've got to kind of put on a work face. You can't be emotional. Well, it's all about vulnerability now and not being afraid to fail and being able to ask questions. We are number one in vulnerability as women. We put our hearts on our sleeves. And again, that's a huge asset in business now. It's real power to be able to be vulnerable, to be naturally vulnerable. Our multitasking, right? this idea that women are multitaskers. I actually got married quite late in life. I got married in my early 40s, and I hadn't really quite realized the real difference between men and women and how much of multitaskers we are. Because I genuinely think the difference between the male and female brain is, everyone says actually, the way the female brain is between our left brain and our right brain, sort of between our creative and our logical brain. Apparently, for us women, there's thousands of little tiny little wires and channels between two sides of our brain, so they're just going back and forth. Whereas the difference with men is between the left side and the right side, there's just one thick cable going from one side to the other. But just our multitasking lends itself so incredibly to entrepreneurship. And the last thing they always make fun of women is, oh God, women shopaholics. That's all you can do is shopaholics. Well, guess what? If the consumer economy had a sex, it would be female. Women make 80% of shopping decisions. Because women make 80%. In fact, we do a survey when anyone joins Buy One Built, and we're like, why did you start your business? 90% of founders started because of personal need. It was something they were looking for that they couldn't find. And that was the genesis of them starting a business. They were scratching their own itch. So if you put all those qualities together with stuff that women naturally do at home, because we are the default caregivers, the resourcefulness we have to have, the problem solving that we need to do, all that comes in to actually make the perfect entrepreneur. That actually gives us that huge advantage. But there is a but here. And the but is that we've got all the skills we need, the powers and all those feminine skills we're born in, but it is something around the female brain that is very noisy. The one thing we've got is that overthinking. Because in a way, I think, because we're so open and we're not scared of vulnerability, we're not obstinate, so we're always open to people doubting us, to doubting ourselves. That noise, that constant negative self-talk that we've got as women, biologically, I think, that's almost like a soundtrack the whole time. And that self-talk really is just kind of wheels around, and it makes us doubt our power. And when we doubt our power, I think, we sort of give power to our doubts. And that keeps us where we are. It keeps us either not leaping into the opportunity of entrepreneurship, or if we've got businesses, it stops us from our businesses reaching their full potential and really scaling and super scaling our businesses. So in a way, it's that is the only fear. And in a way, we don't think we're fearful, because I see women, I've never met a woman that's not strong, but sometimes we give in to the way fear comes in and persuades us without us realizing that actually we haven't got the skills, we haven't got what it takes, we haven't got the confidence. It's the way it tricks us into thinking we can't do it. But we can do it. Everyone in this room, every entrepreneur that's out there, and I have seen through Buy One Built how many there are, how many women who've broken barriers and done it, and they've taken the leap. And this is our future. This is us together creating this new women's movements, where we don't have to conform, we don't have to twist ourselves to be someone else. We can be our true selves, making it all work for us. That's why, it's us using this gift, this gold we've got. This is our moment. This is our movement. We've got to grab it with both hands, because we owe it to all those women that came before us. My mother and my grandmother didn't have the opportunities that we have. And I feel we owe it to this next generation, to the little girls, to show what real feminine strength is and create this new feminine template. Thank you very much. Thank you.